At this time of year, it's probably best to go over the gift that keeps on giving. That's it right up there. Welcome back to the Scaled Builders Guild. Thanks again for watching. It's episode 25 of What's on the Bench Weekly. And if you're not familiar with What's on the Bench, it's where I take you through projects that I've either completed or are a work in progress or are just starting or are just ideas in my head. And this week, we're going back to one of the most requested, talked about trucks that I have in the collection, and that is the Vanquish Ripper. Here it is. This really is the gift that keeps on giving, and seeing as Christmas is only a mere 4 days away, I thought it was a really great opportunity to take you through this truck. Not a lot of these were produced, about 120-ish. And the first one came out in 2017, I do believe. I did go to Axial Fest that year, and that was the first time I saw a Ripper in person. That was the first few weeks that they were actually out. And at that point, there were only 2 or 3 that existed. And the idea, I think, from Vanquish, and of course, Josh can probably walk you through most of the history even better than I can, was just a proof of concept. They wanted to see, could we make this? Is it viable? That's probably not a question they asked. Could we make this? Was probably the first question, and then they did. There's a lot of really interesting things about this truck, and the first thing I can tell you is that it really is that great. And it really is that valuable. The prices for these now in the aftermarket are ridiculous, and while I would never sell this, it sometimes is tempting. It is a permanent fixture here in the Scaled Builders Guild collection. This will never leave the collection. It's staying for good. Don't ask me. It's not for sale. Everything's for sale. The basis of this truck was really for Vanquish to show what they were capable of in the machining and CNC kind of space. Is this something that could be done? And the answer, of course, is yes. And Vanquish is well known for their quality wheels and quality components and upgrade parts. But I think they wanted to push the envelope to see if a full-blown car was something they could do. The first thing you notice, these are all metal panels. They're all aluminum panels. And they're not just bent, they're actually machined out of aluminum. This side panel here, there's a lot of angles, and those are machined out of a solid block of aluminum. The hood, solid block of aluminum that's been machined into a piece. I'll take it off here in a minute and I'll show you what it looks like. Mine has been used, and that's good. They should be used. They should be driven. They should not be shelf queens. Certainly not the intended purpose. And I mean, if that's your thing and you're a collector, then great, good for you. But for me, this had to be used, and it's definitely got some dents, and that's adding to the character, of course. It is meant to look a bit like a Jeep. It, of course, is not a Jeep because it doesn't have the right number of slots in the grille. Phew. It's a really unique looking truck, and it's sort of meant to be sort of like a King of Hammers style off-road buggy truck, whatever you want to call it. But a lot of engineering went into this. You're looking at the cage probably right now, and you're saying to yourself, that cage looks really good. Is it bent out of aluminum as well? Well, it is aluminum, but it's also machined. Believe it or not, solid block of aluminum created these side panels, also created all of the tube work that you see. It is a really spectacular piece of engineering, and that's probably why it commanded such a high price when these were available through Vanquish. Josh has said many times over and over again how he'll never do it again, but I urge you to email him and ask him when the Ripper 2 is coming out. It's his favorite question to answer. Mine is number 16. It is laser etched and engraved. There have been some upgrades and changes since I initially put this truck together back in 2017. But it's primarily a stock SCX-10-2 underneath. Of course, it's got a full set of Vanquish everythings on it. Most recently, the latest upgrade was the F9 axles. As you can see, they're still brand new. I put those on earlier this year, and haven't had a chance to drive this thing yet, but I did want to have a black axle. I think I originally had clears when this one was first put together. There's also been some changes on a more structural level. There is now a metal steel battery tray. The original tray was 3D printed by Josh, poorly, and I wanted to upgrade to that metal one. That was a new piece. These sliders that have been added, these are 3D printed sliders from R3 Designs, and they pretty closely mimic the actual contours of those metal panels. They are great for keeping those metal panels looking freaking brand new underneath. So it's good to have those. Now, there are a lot of parts from the Ripper that made their way into their next release, and that was the VS410, the original one. A lot of aluminum parts here made their way into that truck, and of course, that's just natural. That's how it goes. Ugh. I just noticed my dashboard is leaking resin. Gross. We'll get into that here in a minute. I need to find something to wipe my hands on. The interior is from a Bomber. Shocker that Josh had something to do with this, and it uses a Bomber interior. Not at all surprised by that. I've upgraded the shocks. These are the Vanquish Incision shocks. It will get a set of S8Es in a little bit. I just have to put together the right combination of aluminum parts to do that. Machined aluminum grille, machined aluminum front bumper, machined aluminum light bars, top and bottom. Of course, there's a rear light bar as well, and there's also a spare tire, and I've added some shock reservoirs too. I 3D printed those shapeways and added those to the mix. There's a receiver box here, that's from Axial, and then the interior panel also got the scale built treatment, so it's got a full functioning center console that actually has an RPM gauge that's tied to the actual throttle, which is pretty awesome in and of itself. Front axle, the F9 front axle is servo on axle for ultimate in steering performance. I'm running the KMC Bully wheels, 1.9s, with the 1.9475 Proline crawler and Crawler Innovations foams. That's about it for the exterior. Let's get some of these panels off so you get an idea of the amount of engineering that went into this truck. These are pretty spectacular, and because this truck is Axial SCX-10-2 based, you can take it to Axial Fest and drive it. And that's what I've done a number of times, actually. Hence all the dents. This is pretty amazing. Just take the screws out there. But here it is. All one solid piece of aluminum that's been completely machined. It's not like it was formed in any way, which would have been a lot more cost effective. But this has been entirely machined out of a solid block of aluminum. And you have to imagine, it was at least an inch thick, which is crazy. The amount of machining time in the hood alone is in the tens of hours. So you can imagine what the rest of the truck must have possibly taken. They obviously weren't building any wheels that week. Quite amazing. It's really a feat of engineering. Q-Series headlights there. I've added some yellow tint. It's just JDM tint. You can get that on eBay. But I wanted to add that just to give it a unique look. There's also some inner fenders there. Those are also courtesy of R3 Designs, located locally for me, anyway. There is a radiator here with a nice radiator cap. That cap, you may notice, looks very similar to what you can get on the F10s. And that is something that they incorporated, I think, from this design into the next generation of VS410 Pro and Phoenix. The radiator is functional. There is a fan behind there, and that helps bring cool air into the undercarriage to cool your motor and ESC. This is the Castle Slate 2850 kV motor. You know what? Let's get the side panel off too. Why not? While we're here. It really is a pretty incredible truck to see up close, and I'm very fortunate to have one. They're not cheap. They weren't cheap when they were available. They're even more not cheap now that there's an aftermarket who seems to really want them. All right, so let's pull that panel off there. And you get a better look at the whole cage structure, which in and of itself is quite beautiful. You could run it without panels, and people would be like, that's a pretty good looking truck. For XCX10 style transmission, this does have Hertz dig built into it. Also the Vanquish part. All hardened metal gears throughout. 32 pitch, of course, for added strength. There is a full-size shifting servo on there. This is the original dig, so it takes up a lot more space than the more compact-sized dig that they offer in the VFD. The heads on the drivers, I forgot to mention those. Those are from a man named James French, a Beetle lover on the Tamiya clubs. He's not active at all anymore, but he used to work at Weta Design, where they do all the visual effects for the Lord of the Rings movies. He designed those heads and had them cast in a very good quality resin that holds a lot of details. The painting instruction manual is like 30 pages long. And I've gone through it a few times, but something I'm very proud of. Mostly because there's a theme and it all kind of works. I should mention that all of the graphics were provided by Freaky Skins. I asked him to design this livery based off of a truck that I saw at King of Hammers. You can get this same livery for your own Ripper if you have one. There's a couple other out there with a slight variation. Obviously not the Scale Builders Guild logo. Wouldn't allow that. But otherwise, yeah. So there you go. That's kind of an overview of this vehicle and something that I really wanted to share with you. If you've got questions about the Ripper, by all means, post them down below. You know I love reading through your feedback, and I try to answer as many of them as I can, even during this busy holiday season. It's extra busy, actually, because I'm finishing a Mayhem project. So that's why there's no actual work being done on any other vehicles right now. I had to focus all of my attention on Mayhem, and that's coming out on December 25th. So you'll be able to watch that after you're tired of hanging out with your family. In fact, you know what? Get your family to all load it up, and they can all watch it on their own devices. There you go. So that's the Vanquish Ripper. I'm very honored to have this in the collection. And like I said, it's not going anywhere. So if you ever want to see it again, maybe even on a live episode, by all means, just hit me in the chat, and I'll be sure to show it off some more. Do you have a Ripper? If so, do you want to sell it? I think that's going to do it for this episode of What's on the Bench. A very quick one. I hope you're having a safe and happy holiday season, and we will see you again next week.